This is
Make it plain.
Make it plain.
MIP
With Masamela Matfumo.
Mark Thompson.
Make it plain.
Get woke.
Folks, the founder of the largest online progressive community, Daily Kos, and the founder of Civics with a Q, Markos Moulitsas, joins us once again for Thursday Kos during a very eventful week. Markos, how are you, buddy? As well as can be expected under the circumstances, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I'm okay, but I was already having trouble sleeping because of Ukraine and just trying to keep up with all the news, and now this just added another layer. The news about Roe v. Wade, and so it feels like there's so much to write about and so much to track and so much to talk about that sleep becomes it becomes a little bit of an afterthought. So, but I figure, you know what? We got 6 months to the election. Work-life balance can wait. I mean, this is an all hands on deck. We've been talking about a war in Ukraine. This is a war here in our own shores. This is an ideological battle, and now I hope people are realizing what the stakes are.
And what are the stakes? Do people really get what the stakes are, Markos? Do you think?
I don't know, and this is the battle that we have to wage, and this is why those of us who really understand this and are impacted have to be engaged and ready to fight this electoral battle. And Mark, just look at Republicans. Look at Republicans and how they react. Right, the true believers are all excited.
Mm-hmm.
Roe v. Wade is gone.
Yeah,
they are so happy. But now you look at Senate Republicans, and a lot of them in the House, and they're whining about process. Oh, it got leaked. What a violation of norms. As if the destruction of a key right can be distilled down to a conversation about norms. But this is what it is, Mark. They don't like the decision, right? This is the proverbial dog who caught the car, doesn't know what to do. They were happy to gin up their Christianist base on abortion for the last 50 years and really never intending to actually do something about it.
Right.
And now they finally, because of Donald Trump, and because despite having lost a popular vote in 7 of the last 8 elections, whatever the number, right. I can't remember off the top of my head, 5 of 6, 7 of 8. They haven't won an election popular vote since George Bush in 2004. Yet they have been able to install a court that is severely undemocratic and has the ability to destroy people's rights with no accountability. And they're going to cry about process. See, but that's the tell. If they're crying about process instead of celebrating, because Mark, if that draft opinion said that Roe v. Wade survived, would we be crying about the leak?
No.
We'd be celebrating. We'd be like, oh my God, this is great. The fact that they can't do that, the fact that they're crying about the leak means that they don't want to discuss the actual substance. They know that Roe is popular with the American people, overwhelmingly so. Only about 30% of America wants what the Supreme Court, what Alito has written in that decision. And I don't want to lose sight of the rights that are being lost by women. I don't want to minimize that consequence. But I also, when you say what's at stake, Alito's decision says that same-sex marriage, that is not a real right, he says. He says that anti-sodomy laws are okay. We know what that means. He said that he basically said that any right that doesn't have a historical basis is not a real right. So unless you were a white male in 1776, you do not have rights. That is literally what Alito just wrote.
That's right.
And I don't want people to go like, oh, let's talk about contraception. Okay, yeah, it's all important. the right of abortion is directly eliminated here. So I don't want people to say like, okay, yeah, let's not talk about abortion. Let's talk about contraception and gay rights. No, because abortion is critically important. But what's at stake is everything, is all the rights we hold dear. Because according to Alito, apparently only gun ownership's the only thing that matters.
Yeah.
Alito.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, no, that's literally what he said. That anything, he even went so far as to say, and I'm paraphrasing, that abortion was illegal up before 1973, and that people were considered criminal under pain of punishment. So just take out abortion and leave that blank. You can put in African Americans reading. You can put in desegregation. You can put in voting rights. They're basically saying anything that was not in the original, or that was, better yet, what was considered illegal from the beginning, basically ought to be considered illegal today.
Yeah, and this is not hyperbole. We're not exaggerating. We're not being alarmist. It is literally what he said. He talked about there not being historical basis for that right. And he specifically called out laws that, the same-sex marriage case, Oberfeld. He specifically called out sodomy, Lawrence v. Texas, as cases that weren't real rights.
Yeah.
So, and sodomy, it's anything but missionary style was considered sodomy back in the day. It's not just same-sex sex. It's also, it could be oral sex. It could be anything that's not vanilla. It's sodomy according to those old laws.
Yeah.
This is what he's saying, that none of that is a real right. Now he says, he tries to turn feminism on its head, right? He knows this is coming. So he basically says women are the majority of the vote. They can just vote. To legalize abortion in their states. Now, there's this pretense that this is about states' rights, even though Republicans in the Senate have a bill to create a national ban on abortion. At least right now, they're all pretending, at least Alito is pretending that this is about states' rights. And so what needs to happen is exactly that, is that all these women who took the right for granted, all the allied men who took those rights for granted, everybody who said there's no difference between Democrats and Republicans, everybody who sat it out because this really, politics has no impact in my life, all those people need to realize what's at stake, and that November is really a watershed moment for our freedoms in this country. And we cannot overstate this enough. Yeah, it gets tiresome hearing that this is the most important election in our lifetime. But right now, this is the most important election in our lifetime, because abortion is at stake, those rights, but also these other rights we talked about, sodomy and contraception and same-sex marriage and interracial marriage too, Mark. Let's not forget that. Interracial marriage as well. That's all at stake, but also our democracy, our right to vote. Those are things that are at stake. And so all of that matters. And there has to be a reckoning with both our movement, who just, our core base does not turn out in midterm elections. They have to turn out. And Republican women, particularly those suburban college-educated Republican women, who are probably the only swing demographic left in this country, they swung for Joe Biden, and then in Virginia last year they swung against the Democrats, and they elected Youngkin, the Republican governor. This is a swingy demographic. This is a time where they have to take stock of what being a Republican really is and make the right decision. Do they care about those rights for themselves and for their children? Or are they going to throw all in with this fascist Putin-style Republican Party and watch them erode our rights, just like Putin is is doing in
Same thing.
Russia. Literally.
What's the difference? To say that people, there's even a line here, I'm trying to find it. I saw it earlier, and I should have bookmarked it, where they make the case that, liberty and all that stuff is really not is not something you have a right to. They make this argument for ordered liberty. What is ordered? What is that?
I don't know, but Hitler probably loved that. And, I know it's glib to throw out the Hitler analogies, but literally, what is it? Order, right? Order equals fascism.
Yeah.
Literally. That is the definition of fascism. And Putin thinks that the West is weak, as Donald Trump, because it is a pluralist society that allows the free exchange of opinions and can be rowdy at times. People might protest. People may disagree. They may take to the streets. Heavens, right? But that's what Bolsonaro and Erdogan in Turkey, that's what unites fascist governments around the world. It's what Trump tried to do, right? We've just heard it in one of these stupid new books that Trump was asking why they couldn't shoot Black Lives Matter protesters in the knees.
Yeah.
That's what fascism is the suppression of dissent and disagreement. That's what they talk about when they're talking about, quote, order. I mean, what else is it, Mark? They just don't want people disagreeing with them. And so it's not when Tea Party protesters no, that's fine. Right? Or the Freedom Caravan, whatever that dumb nonsense was. They don't have a problem with that. But black people are protesting. Yeah, no, we need order. Time for some order.
I've been lifting this up, folks. I'm going to lift it up again. From the opinion, the inescapable conclusion is that a right to abortion is not deeply rooted in the nation's history and traditions. On the contrary, an unbroken tradition of prohibiting abortion on pain of criminal punishment persisted from the earliest days of the common law until 1973. So just substitute the word abortion for everything else. And that's an argument that can be used to pretty much strike down anything. And,
I want to make clear that this is not slippery slope argument that Mark is making here, because he literally goes on to say that laws on same-sex marriage and anti-sodomy laws are equally unsupported by historical precedent and are equally not rights in his view.
Yeah.
So it's not a question of like, because they rule this way, they're going to, maybe they'll rule the other way. No, not maybe. That's exactly what he's arguing in this decision.
So everything is on the chopping block. Do you think this will motivate people?
I don't know. I'm motivated, and I'm seeing the fire on Twitter, right? And I know Twitter's not real life, but there's always this discussion about how the party in power doesn't perform as well just because of an intensity gap, right? The opposition is always more motivated than the people who are in power. Right now, it feels like we're in the opposition. Because we are in the opposition of what apparently is the most important branch of government, and one that has been filled by one Supreme Court justice whose wife is an insurrectionist, and three more who were chosen by that insurrectionist to sit on that court. That is the Supreme Court we have. It's an illegitimate Supreme Court, and Democrats really need to start talking about either impeaching some of these justices for lying in their confirmation hearings, or expand the court. That's probably the easier. Just expand the court, and because it's an illegitimate court, and Democrats won't be able to get anything done. We could have super majorities, and this court's going to keep striking stuff down, because now he's going to talk about historical freedoms. He's voted against voting rights. Isn't that a historical? It goes to the founding, 1776, to the founding of our nation. Blah 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 blah. Democracy? No, they don't care. He voted to install George Bush in Florida as president. He stopped the vote. He didn't even allow a vote in Florida, a complete vote, so that George Bush could be president.
Right.
This is not somebody who actually cares about historical presidents. These, he is so full of it, and it is what, he'll throw out whatever argument works for the moment. He's a typical conservative, just like Mitch McConnell, and there's no ideological core or grounding to this Supreme Court majority, and nothing's going to happen. Democrats are stuck because a lot of these guys are young. They're not going anywhere. And we are in a situation where our laws are predicated on when somebody dies. How is that anything remotely, look like a democracy? There should absolutely be term limits. Absolutely be term limits. 10 years out. And then you might have something that is more democratically accountable, because you're not going to have a guy sitting on there for 50 years.
Yeah.
The world evolves, it changes, it moves. And in a democracy, our government reflects that. The good and the bad. But given our system, it's mostly the bad, right? I mean, Donald Trump won while losing the popular vote. Like, what kind of democracy is that? We have a Senate where the 50 Republicans represent about 30% of the American people. How is that a democracy? And then on top of that, you're going to throw on a filibuster? The House, heavily gerrymandered, designed to maximize partisan gain for whatever party's in power in those states. How's that a democracy? We got serious issues with our democracy, and we're backsliding. It's not getting better. It's getting worse. That's why we need to win in November, because we can start rolling that back. And am I seeing that yet? I don't know, Mark. It's only been a couple, it just happened, right? So people are, I think, a little stunned, even though people expected this. I think there's a bit of shell shock feeling to it, but I'm sensing that at least my friends in the liberal political world are revved up, which means that they're going to be more likely to be doing things like making phone calls and knocking on doors and talking to people to make sure that they get out and vote. So that's the first part. And then the second part is making sure everybody else knows, broader public and key swing demographics like those suburban, white, college-educated women who may want to have abortion rights for either themselves or their children.
Yeah. Do we know? I mean, I wonder how this is playing even around the world. What people must think of this country that we would make a decision like this at this time, that this would be happening. I mean, in most other civilized nations around the world, this is no longer even an issue, is it?
No, and in fact, it's actually going the other way. So a lot of countries like Poland and Ireland and a bunch of Latin American countries, Mexico may have been one of them, that are actually moving in a direction of liberalizing abortion laws, despite heavy. I mean, those three countries I mentioned are all heavily Catholic countries, right? But that are moving because that is the direction progress grows, right? You think that we become more enlightened because science and technology and our ability to get educated and ability to be exposed to people outside our immediate group. You would think that we as a society would evolve to a place where we'd be more tolerant of that sort of thing. Nobody's celebrating abortions as a like something to celebrate, but it has a place and an ability of women and families to plan their families and ensure that whatever children are born actually have the best chance at survival, right? I would even be a little more sympathetic to Republican efforts to eliminate abortion if they cared about those kids after they were born. But it's worse. They actually are more virulently opposed to any help to those children through social programs. And so that's the part. This is not about life, because they're not trying to help the born. So it's yeah. How's the world seeing it? I don't know. It's too early to get the reaction. But I mean, if I'm the world, I'm really scared for the United States. Not just because of this, but also because of Donald Trump the last 4 years. Like you can't trust this country, right? So much power, so influential in military to economic to cultural. These are all ways to exert power, and we're not right now a very unstable democracy.
Yeah, but very unstable. Some are saying that this message was made clear in 2016, but people didn't listen, particularly women.
I mean,
that white women did not listen. They actually voted for Donald Trump.
Yeah, no, white women didn't listen. I mean, big healthy dose of blame goes to the media who didn't think it mattered and were more obsessed about Hillary's emails, where zero wrongdoing was ever alleged. Just always want to remind people there was never any alleged wrongdoing. Never. It was maybe it was improper. That was the worst. And yet, New York Times had 22 reporters assigned to the Hillary email beat, 0 assigned to the, maybe we should dig into Donald Trump's corrupt past beat. None. There was one guy at the Washington Post, Farenthold, one guy in the entire DC media looking at Donald Trump's past. So there's definitely a lot of blame, and just watch these next couple of days and see, is the media going to play along with the process story? Like what's important? What's important that women are about to lose their right to abortion, or that somebody leaked it? Who gives a crap? Republicans are talking about democratic norm. There's not a democratic norm about not leaking Supreme Court decisions. And why would there be? What's democratic? The word democratic. What's democratic about allowing judges to do these decisions in secret? Nothing. It's actually quite the opposite. Let them debate these things in public. Let these draft decisions be in public. I don't care if the decision is in my favor or against. I don't understand. The only way it makes sense, Mark, is that they're afraid of the actual decision. And you know what happened? What happened is that now we have an extra month to organize around the issue of abortion rights. And that's why Republicans are pissed. Not because of the decision. They're pissed that liberals can now organize for an extra month. And we're energized now. When the actual decision comes down, we'll be energized all over again. And I think Republicans are freaked out about that, which is why they're trying to distract and talk about stupid process stuff that is really irrelevant.
People are obsessing over who leaked it. The leak is more important than the loss of rights? That's insane.
Yeah, no, it's Republicans are I think it's really more about, they don't want to talk about the substance. They don't want to have to defend why women's rights, why women have just lost a key right. It's the old, I said earlier, it's dog catching the car. They don't know what to do with it now, right? It was great as a way to motivate their base to turn out. Now it's happened. Does that base turn out anymore? Do they need to turn out anymore? And our base is fired up. And we've had an extra month to organize and prepare for this election at a time when things were a little sleepy. The war in Ukraine was, was a bit of a distraction, and campaigns were having, I don't think campaigns were having a hard time raising money and getting volunteers, but this will supercharge all of that. I mean, I think money, volunteers are going to flood in. We have an extra month to organize. And then when the actual decision comes down next month, I think it's next month. Yeah, in June. That'll be, that'll just supercharge what already are supercharged efforts. So this is, I think, what Republicans are really freaked out about, that this gave us extra time to organize and prepare for the election. And when people have been talking about, Democrats are in trouble, Democrats, midterm elections. And Mark, I haven't been sugarcoating the situation at all, right? Historically, the party in power has a difficult time holding on to seats. That's just, we've never been shy to talk about that, the realism of the situation. But that assumes that the party in power is complacent because they won. I don't think we're feeling like we won anything right now.
No.
And we are clearly in the minority And whether we have the White House, whether we have Congress, we are in the minority, and it feels that way. And I think and hope that will motivate our people to turn out, that it'll really, really have an impact with those suburban college-educated white women that are a swing demographic, that are youth will turn out. This is their rights under assault right now. That youth will have reason to turn out. I'm already starting to see a lot of talk on TikTok. People outraged, can't believe what's happening. And so this is going to be an atypical year. And I'm not saying that means we're going to pick up seats, but I'm really saying that we need to, and the opportunity is there for sure. And the material's there and the motivation's there. And Alito says in his decision, if you don't like this, then vote in a way that protects those rights. Because it's not a right, he says, it's just policy. Vote in a way that protects that policy if this is what you really want. It's democracy. So, all right, let's take Alito up at his word, and let's vote in record numbers to ensure that we can protect those rights and get rid of the Republicans that are pushing this crap.
DailyKos.com, civicswithaQ.com. We got to get in this fight, folks. Markos Moulitsas, thanks as always, buddy.
Thank you so very much.
Thanks for getting woke and listening to Make It Plain. As always, perform an act of kindness on behalf of an elder or young person. Write a letter to a sister or brother who just so happens to find her or himself incarcerated. Offer libations to the ancestors upon whose sturdy shoulders we all now stand. And above all, give thanks to the God of your understanding by whatever name you call her and him. All God asks of us is that we give each other love. Thanks for giving MIP love. And please remember to subscribe and give us a 5-star rating. If all hearts and minds are clear, it has been made plain.